before you scroll, understand this: if you leave now, you may walk away from the exact confirmation your spirit has been waiting for. If you are hearing these words right now, this moment is not random, and it is not noise passing through your day. It is a divine interruption, a holy pause, where heaven leans close and speaks directly to the part of you that has been quietly holding on. There is a weariness in your spirit that words have not touched, the exhaustion of showing up again and again with faith, effort, and hope while nothing seems to move, the heaviness of running in circles, doing everything you know how to do, yet waking up to the same walls, the same pressure, the same unanswered tension around money, direction, and purpose. The part no one sees, the quiet moment where you wonder if you misheard God, or if everyone else is moving forward while you're standing still. Your strength has been stretched thin, your confidence shaken, and somewhere along the way you started wondering if you were asking for too much or if you simply were not enough. But this is not failure speaking. This is fatigue, and heaven recognizes the difference. You have been carrying more than you were meant to carry, standing longer than you were meant to stand, and still you did not quit. That matters. The silence you have felt was not absence, it was preparation, and the delay was not denial, it was alignment. But what actually shifted is not what you think, and most people miss it because it doesn't announce itself. Right now, a shift has begun, not someday, not eventually, but now. The season that drained you is closing, and the ground beneath your feet is already moving. God says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit." And God also says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" This is the handoff between survival and restoration, between barely holding on and being upheld. Relief is closer than your fear suggests. Reassurance is already forming around you, and what has been building behind the scenes is approaching with intention. Stay with this, because what you are about to hear next will not only confirm what your spirit has sensed, it will activate what has been waiting to rise within you. Chosen one, the pain you walked through was not random, and it was not wasted. It was the moment your soul was initiated into a deeper truth. The betrayal became the place where your eyes opened. The abandonment pulled the veil back, and every tear carried intelligence your mind could not yet name. And part of you is still angry, not at them, but at how much you had to endure quietly while doing everything right. You were not being punished, you were being prepared, because destiny attracts resistance long before it reveals reward, and you had to feel the sting to recognize the snare, to see how even affection can be twisted into a cage when it is powered by fear and unhealed wounds. You tried harder than anyone knew. You poured yourself out hoping love would be enough, but this was never about fixing them. It was about freeing you, because your presence exposed what they were avoiding, and your truth agitated what they refused to heal. Heaven watched closely while you wrestled with confusion, and God says, "Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints." And God also says, "Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning." Pause here and let this settle deeply into your body and breath, because the depth of your grief was proportional to the size of the chain you were meant to break. And the reason it hurts so much is because you were ending a cycle your bloodline never could. There was a reason it felt familiar, like déjà vu mixed with destruction, because your soul had seen this pattern before and returned this time with authority to end it. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his own brothers and thrown into a pit, not because he was weak, but because his destiny threatened what they could not become. And the pit did not bury him, it positioned him. And now hear this clearly as the shift takes place within you and around you. What you walked away from did not lose you, it lost access to you, because the moment you chose yourself, the contract was broken and the door closed behind you. They felt it when you left. The silence became louder than any argument, and the memory of you now convicts them in the quiet hours. You were never just a lover or a companion. You were the catalyst, the revealer, the one whose light disrupted the agreement, and the test ended the moment you stopped negotiating with what was draining you. And this is the moment you stop asking why it happened and start realizing why it could only happen to you. You are not bitter. You are aligned. You are not broken. You are clear. And what rises next in your life will not require you to shrink, explain, or bleed to be chosen, because this time it will meet you in truth, and what is unfolding now will make sense of everything you survived. Chosen one, now you see with clarity that this was never personal, it was spiritual. What moved through them was not sourced in them. They were the doorway, not the designer. And yet your soul recognized the assignment the moment the ground began to shake beneath you. You were not just ending a connection, you were confronting invisible contracts written before memory, soul ties formed in survival, permissions signed by ancestors who did the best they could with what they had, and you were sent to void them, not through force, but through alignment, restraint, silence, and the refusal to keep shrinking when pressure tried to rename you. You were never meant to repair them. You were meant to outgrow them. And every time you chose peace over performance, boundaries over begging, stillness over reaction, heaven marked it as progress, even when it looked like loss on the outside. You believed you were losing love, but you were gaining authority, because not everyone you feel deeply for is meant to go with you. Some are placed as weights to reveal whether you will stay loyal to pain or rise into purpose. And you rose quietly without applause, without explanations, without closure. Pause here and allow your nervous system to soften as this truth lands, because the chosen are rarely given clean endings. They are given clean hands. This was a divine setup, a refining ground reserved for those trusted with influence, trained in fire, shaped in confusion, elevated through betrayal. And God says, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." And God also says, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation." Think of David, anointed in private while still unseen, hunted while innocent, misunderstood while faithful, yet preserved because the oil on his life could not be cancelled by the resistance around him. And now hear this shift clearly as the air around your spirit changes. What you survived was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal where you still believed love had to be earned through suffering, and why that pattern could not follow you into the next territory. You were not being punished, you were being positioned, because the light you carry now is not gentle illumination, it is revelatory, it exposes, it divides, it disrupts, and that is why people change when you stop explaining yourself. Some will withdraw, some will resist, some will turn cold, not because you harmed them, but because the truth in you forced a decision they were not ready to make. Do not take the silence personally when old circles fall away and familiar spaces no longer fit. That is not rejection. That is realignment. Portals closing, access revoked. You are being consecrated now, separated without being isolated, hidden while fully seen. And in this realm, discernment becomes your language, boundaries your protection, obedience your covering. You are no longer here to be liked. You are here to be aligned. And you will recognize who belongs not by words, but by peace, by fruit, by spiritual weight. You no longer read faces, you read spirits, and nothing hidden can remain hidden around you anymore. The most dangerous thing you ever did was heal, because it made you unpredictable to what once fed on your confusion. And now the assignment has shifted from surviving the battle to preparing for the building, because what is coming is not ease, it is impact, and everything you lost made room for what is finally yours. Chosen one, you are being trusted now with spiritual keys, not symbols, not metaphors, but real authority forged through pain that did not destroy you, keys that unlock others, keys that expose hidden bondage in places most people never notice. And that is why you could not remain trapped in their web, because you were marked to become the blueprint out, the deliverer in your bloodline, the one who breaks what quietly destroyed generations before you. This shows up quietly in the way you no longer chase explanations, the way your body tightens around certain people, the way peace becomes your filter. You were never meant to simply survive heartbreak. You were meant to emerge carrying revelation, because the heartbreak was the cocoon and the authority is the awakening. And now those who doubted you watch from a distance, stunned by a version of you they never planned for, remembering who you were when you were bleeding but unable to comprehend who you are now that you are standing. Let them replay it in their minds. Let them wrestle with the silence, because their access has expired and the pawn has been removed from the board while the chosen walks in dominion, no longer reacting to warfare, no longer looping in cycles, but leading, restoring, and building with clarity. Pause here and let this truth settle into your spine and breath, because what rose in you was not confidence borrowed from circumstances, but authority born in secret places where only heaven saw you endure. You have stepped into discernment that cannot be negotiated, into a confidence that does not need permission, and no false connection, no shadow tie, no hidden force will ever reach you again, because now you know who you are, and the unseen knows it too. And now, as your assignment sharpens and the field around you changes, understand this clearly. Protection becomes wisdom, distance becomes strategy, and not everyone deserves proximity to what God has marked, because distraction will come dressed like destiny, familiar spirits wearing new faces, flattering words masking delay, studying you not out of love, but out of assignment. You have seen this pattern before, different voice, same vibration, and this time you will not mistake intensity for intimacy, because discernment has become your language. You sense the spirit before the sentence, and when the old frequency approaches in a new form, your body remembers, your soul recognizes, and the door stays closed. Scripture confirms what your spirit already knows. I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, and to overcome all the power of the enemy. And again, what he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. Remember Esther, hidden for a season, positioned through pressure, threatened not because she was weak, but because her existence disrupted a system. And when the moment came, she did not shrink. She stepped forward, and an entire people were preserved. Your last heartbreak did not break you. It baptized you into wisdom and clarity that cannot be penetrated. You no longer move by emotion, but by instruction. And when God says leave you, leave. When God says close the door, you do not hesitate because you have lived the cost of delay. Hear this and be settled. Your past connection was not your enemy. It was the trigger that pushed you into purpose. And now the contract is void. The cycle is closed. And what lies ahead is not just healing, but rebuilding and reigning. Because what was meant to ruin you became the place where power returned to its rightful vessel. And that vessel is you. Not everything that feels like love is sent to stay. Some are sent to wake you up. Chosen one, listen with your spirit, because this journey did not end when you broke free. It intensified. And the moment you stepped above the shadow that tried to claim you, the opposition changed its voice and its strategy. No longer clawing at your emotions, but pressing against your identity, your worth, your right to carry this light, whispering doubts meant to make you forget who you are. You recognize that sound, the roar that shows up in quiet hours when the room feels empty and old fears try to sound logical, because the word already warned you, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Pause here and let your breath slow as you feel this truth settle, because the roar only rises when something powerful is moving. This is not the season to shrink or disappear. This is the moment to stand with holy boldness, marked for now, chosen for this hour, because everything that tried to wire your fear, the trauma bonds, the inherited pain, the unseen pressure to stay small, failed to rewrite your destiny. Your soul was never designed for defeat. It was forged for victory. And like Gideon hiding in fear before the angel called him mighty, you were addressed by heaven long before you believed it yourself. And now understand this shift clearly as you step forward with new eyes. The tactics you are facing are proof of promotion, not punishment, because your awakening is shaking systems that once fed on your confusion. Scripture confirms it again. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. What moved through your past connections was not their true self, but unhealed programming, echoes of wounds passed down and never questioned. But you were never encoded by their brokenness. You were written by divine intention. The agreements that once bound you have been burned, the ties dissolved, and your role as catalyst is complete, not because you forced it, but because your light exposed what could not follow you. Do not grieve those who remained asleep. Honor instead the path that sharpened your discernment and fortified your spirit, because what you carry now is no longer just healing, it is responsibility. Your light has become a signal, drawing in alignment and scattering parasites that once lingered in blind spots. And the battlefield you sense is real, but so is the certainty of your victory. The war is not only around you, it echoes within old memories and ancestral pain. Yet you do not run from these fires. You walk through them clothed in grace, turning every wound into fuel. You carry the fractures of your bloodline, yes, but you also carry the solution, the reset, the breaker of patterns that refused to die until you arrived. The grid is collapsing because your frequency will not sync with deception anymore, and the spirits that once watched now retreat, knowing access is denied. Stay watchful, stay anchored, because vigilance is strength, prayer is movement, obedience is protection, and you are no longer a pawn moving in someone else's game. The storm that surrounded you is clearing, the contracts are dissolved, and as the board resets, the truth stands unshaken. They never saw you coming because they underestimated what happens when a soul fully awakens. Chosen one, hear this with every part of your spirit. You were never meant to camp in the ruins of betrayal or replay the moment you were wounded. You were meant to walk forward as living evidence that light outlasts shadow, because what touched your life was never random and never merely human. It was a move on a board you could not see at the time. The one who hurt you was a piece, not the hand, a participant without awareness. While you were being trained to see the whole field, to sense patterns before they formed, to feel shifts before words were spoken. Every heartbreak was a calculated strike in a war fought beyond the surface, and the grid that once tightened around their spirit attempted to entangle you as well. But your presence disrupted the entire structure. You were never designed to fit into their system. You were born as the interruption, the flaw they could not debug. And that is why resistance escalated when you chose truth. The echoes in their lineage reacted because your arrival signaled an ending, and they pushed back hard because exposure feels like annihilation to what survives on darkness. Pause here and let your chest soften as this settles, because the intensity you endured was not proof of weakness, it was confirmation of calling. Scripture already declared it. In all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. And again, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Remember Moses standing before Pharaoh, not with an army but with authority, watching a system built on bondage unravel, not because Moses fought harder, but because freedom had entered the room. And now understand this as the weight shifts off your shoulders and into clarity. The people involved were never the true enemy. They were vessels for fear, jealousy, trauma, masks worn by forces that rely on unconscious agreement. But you were born to break those rhythms, not repeat them. Your presence agitates what feeds on silence. Your clarity terrifies what survives on confusion, and that is why you were tested through love, through loyalty, through familiarity, because comfort is the easiest place to stay asleep. You passed not by perfection but by awareness, not by force but by refusal to abandon yourself again. Stand steady now, because heaven has not stepped back. It has stepped closer, and the resistance you sense is not a warning to retreat, but a signal that alignment is locking in. The pawns will fall away, systems will reset, and paths will clear without explanation. You are not alone, you are accompanied, you are protected, and you are positioned. What once tried to silence you has become the proof of your authority, and the board is shifting because you no longer move as a piece. You move as one who sees, one who knows, one who carries light that cannot be hidden. And this time the game does not continue. It ends with you standing. You didn't lose them. You outgrew what was draining you. You don't need to fix yourself, explain yourself, prove your worth, or carry one more invisible weight to be worthy of what God is doing right now. Because this season is not asking you to strive, it is inviting you to stop. Allow yourself to pause in small, ordinary ways that don't demand effort. like letting your shoulders drop when you remember, taking one slow breath before responding instead of rushing to be understood, or choosing silence for a few minutes when your mind wants answers it cannot yet hold. You are invited to begin your mornings without immediately scanning your worries, simply placing your feet on the floor and acknowledging that you are held before you are productive. And at night, letting the day end without replaying what you could have done differently, trusting that nothing essential was missed. You don't need to force forgiveness or manufacture peace. You can allow release to happen gently by noticing what no longer pulls at you the way it used to, and letting that be enough for today. Rest in this truth quietly throughout your day by choosing one small act of alignment, like saying no without justification when your body tightens, stepping away from conversations that drain you, or placing your hand on your chest when emotions rise, and reminding yourself that you are safe to feel without solving anything. Trust grows here, not through effort, but through permission, through allowing unanswered questions to exist without chasing them, through letting God carry what your mind keeps trying to manage. Receive by staying open rather than alert, by welcoming moments of ease without suspicion, by noticing when support appears unexpectedly and letting it arrive without resistance. Alignment in this season looks like honoring your limits, protecting your quiet, and allowing space for the unseen to move without interruption. You are not falling behind by resting, you are being positioned, because rest is not retreat, it is readiness, and stillness is not absence. It is agreement with what heaven is already doing on your behalf. You don't need to understand the whole process, you don't need to control the outcome, and you don't need to rush the unfolding, because what is meant for you will arrive at the appointed time without force, without striving, and without you carrying what was never yours to hold. Chosen one, everything that moved within you while listening was not imagined and not misplaced. It was recognition, alignment, and memory rising to the surface at the pace your soul can safely hold. Nothing about your journey is late, broken, or overlooked, and nothing you have felt is meaningless or too much. You are not wandering, you are not regressing, and you are not forgotten, even in moments when progress feels quiet and invisible. What you sensed, what softened, what stirred, all belongs to this season and fits it perfectly. You are being carried even when you feel still, guided even when the path feels undefined, and held even when words fall away. There is no urgency here, only assurance, no pressure, only presence, and no demand, only covering. Stay with this calm that has settled in you, and allow yourself to remain in the gentle silence that follows, because the next moments are simply an invitation to rest together in prayer. Just take a gentle moment here, nothing to do, nothing to hold together, simply arriving as you are in this quiet space where you are already seen. God, we come carrying what words have struggled to carry, the tiredness that settled into the bones after trying for so long, the questions about the future that wake the heart at night, the pressure of responsibility, finances, expectations, and the quiet fear that life has been standing still while time keeps moving. We place all of this before you now, not as a performance, not as a demand, but as a release, trusting that you already know the weight and the shape of every burden we have carried. Some of us feel worn down from hoping, some feel numb from disappointment, some feel anxious about what comes next. and some feel strong on the outside while quietly unraveling within, and we acknowledge all of it here without shame. Your word reminds us, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." And again, "The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." We remember Elijah under the broom tree, exhausted, discouraged, ready to give up. And you did not correct him or rush him forward. You fed him, you let him sleep, and you restored his strength before you spoke direction. And that same gentleness is present here now. We trust that you are working even when we cannot see it, arranging what we cannot control, carrying what we are no longer meant to carry, and guiding us without forcing us to understand every step. In this moment, we loosen our grip on outcomes, timelines, explanations, and self-blame, and we rest in the truth that your care does not depend on our clarity or our effort. Peace is spoken over anxious thoughts, calm over restless hearts, provision over hidden worries, and presence over every place that has felt empty or uncertain. We receive your nearness now, not as an idea, but as a covering, steady and quiet, reminding us that we are not late, not forgotten, and not walking alone. We trust you with what has not yet resolved, with doors that have not yet opened, and with answers that have not yet arrived, believing that what is meant for us will come in its appointed time without force or fear. We settle here, breathing again, held again, knowing that even this stillness is sacred and meaningful in your hands. Thank you for meeting us here, for holding what we released, and for walking with us beyond this moment. Stay with us as we remain in this quiet presence, allowing the prayer to continue in silence. If it feels safe, you are invited to write in the comments whatever you are carrying right now, a hope you haven't voiced, a worry that keeps returning, a question with no clear answer, or something you've never said out loud, knowing that putting it into words here is not just a comment, but an act of release, a quiet offering placed before God who sees, hears, and holds you with care. If this moment brought comfort, you may gently share it with someone who might need the same reassurance, and you're welcome to subscribe so you can return to these spaces of peace whenever you need them. You are not alone, and this moment is being held in God's presence and grace.